Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Jared Grant from Legacy Blades. So I've known Jared for quite a few years now. He's one of my co-instructors at Intuitive Self-Protection. All around badass dude. I'm going to let him introduce himself so that I don't say anything wrong because he's got quite a credentialed career. But he, like I said, he is the owner and creator, I guess, manufacturer, chief everything, chief builder, officer. Chief everything officer of Legacy Blades. So he makes all types of blades. We've got two of them here. He makes all types, and they're extremely high quality, well crafted, handcrafted fixed blade knives. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Jared kind of explain who he is, what he does, and what his blades are made of, what they consist of, why they're separate and different from others, and some of the functionality and features and everything. So, Jared, I'm fucking stoked that you were able to get up here again and take it away. Let us know what you got here.
Cool, man. No, thanks, Dan. Yeah, Dan and I were out on the range yesterday yelling and running around, so that's why we both sound like this. Yeah, but yeah, we had a good time. Got some sun first part of the year out there on carbine course, so... yeah, so I started making knives in 2020 during COVID. I've been in SOCOM now for about 8 years, and you know, when COVID hit, and I know it was tough for a lot of people, but my op tempo really just changed. I was used to being gone a lot and just busy all the time, and then you know, all of us were just trying to figure out, what do we do? What do we do with our time? So. I'd been a big fan of like Forge and Fire and just like watching that TV show and kind of understanding it.
It will kill.
It will kill.
Yes, Doug Marcaida is my spirit animal. And so I started just kind of looking at like, what does it actually take? You know, what does it really take for a knife to be built? And that was sort of built on just the obsession that I already had with knives. You know, you and I have done some blade training in the past with NLB, done a lot of deployments in kind of semi-permissive environments where, you know, you're carrying knives concealed for protection. And so top that with some passion for being in the outdoors and hunting. And I was like, okay, you know, I think there's a space where maybe I can get into some knife making. So that's why I started doing it. Started making knives the summer of 2020. And then like, as I just started sharing that with friends and posting pictures and stuff, like people were like, hey man, like let me get one of those knives. And so
now, not to cut you off too much, but to clarify, I know you say only since 2020, so we're going on 3 years now, but phrase it, you know, they're extremely high quality knives. You do your research. I think you were saying something a while back about your fun time is reading books on metallurgy and stuff. And
yeah.
So it's not like you're just some wannabe Joe Schmo out there just in his garage just tinkering with some metal and be like, buy my stuff. You know, it's actually well thought out, well researched products that are actually now being used by some dare I say super secret squirrely guys now.
Sure. You know, it's like anything, you know, when you try to create a product, you got to start with like the right materials. So, you know, all the materials that I use and we'll talk about as we get into these knives and none of this I created by myself, obviously. It's all stuff that has a reputation for being durable and industry leading in their various fields. And then, you know, just trying to listen to experts talk about how they make knives, listening to podcasts, you know, even listening to guys who like Laren Thomas, for those knife nuts who were watching this, you know, he's a PhD metallurgy engineer who specifically tries to create new knife steel. So like he created MagnaCut. So those are the kind of guys that
I'm trying to get at, folks, is that he's very, very humble. He's a very humble guy for all of the cool guy stuff he did and does. The knives are badass, simply put. So you know, that's the point I was trying to get across. Cool. Is that these aren't just some playthings. You got a wait list like months or even a year out now or something like that?
Yeah, so usually I book a certain amount of custom orders at a time, and right now I'm booked through about June, so
June,
a couple months out. And then I do that through like Instagram and Facebook. People just contact me and I work with them specifically like one-on-one to figure out what they want, you know, everything from function to handle color, the way that they want to carry their sheath, and then I get those customs out to folks.
Awesome. Fantastic. So you've got a whole variation of knives. So you've got hunting knives, you got personal protection knives. I think you were starting to work on like some paring knives or even some tomahawks and stuff.
Yeah, I do a couple of different little kitchen knives, nothing too crazy. I've done some steak knives. I do have a couple of hatchets. And then the rest of it is pretty focused around EDC type stuff and hunting stuff. So that's what these
So it looks like these two. So this looks like an EDC type knife. This is more of like a hunting knife.
Yeah, I mean this is the Korvis.
Korvis.
Just Latin for one of my guys from work named it. So just Latin for raven, because I didn't want to steal somebody else's knife, who's bigger than I am, who already had a knife called the Raven.
They say bigger than you, but you've been, not to cut you off, but you've been getting a lot of traction lately. You've been getting featured in magazines. You've been to what, Blade Show, I think?
I've got a couple items that are going to June Blade Show in Atlanta. They're going to get auctioned off for Special Operations Wounded Warrior Foundation. So I'm really excited about that, yeah.
So one of the things I'm trying to beat around the bush is there are guys that kick down doors and go chase bad guys for our country that have seen Jared's knives, now use Jared's knives. I say legacy blades, so we can keep that straight.
Sure,
but there are guys that are now trusting their lives with these, and then several of our students have seen your stuff, and they're carrying them for personal protection now. So you're even though quote unquote it's only been since 2020, you're getting a lot of traction. You're getting a lot of good feedback. You're getting a lot of good press, a lot of good rep. That's So it's some good stuff.
No, I appreciate it, man. Like I put my passion into it, and I think people see that. There's so many knife companies out there, and part of it is, people like what they like, and they're also kind of buying their stories. So I think people like working with me. I try to be pretty user friendly and get them what they need.
Okay, so to explain to me more about the Korvis here.
The Korvis is about 8 inches overall in length. It's got a 3.5 inch straight point blade. It's got an upswept tip, so it just has a good belly. What we're trying to avoid in life, having a good belly. But having that tip that comes up just gives it a little bit of sliceability, for lack of a more technical term. The construction of it, all my knives are ADC RV2, which is a type of steel that's been around for a long time. I won't get too deep into the nerd weeds on what that steel is about and how it works, but it's the same steel that Winkler uses, and he really stands by its ability to be tough and also hold a good edge and just be easy to work with. So the coating on all my knives, I do my own Cerakote. So both these knives that we'll talk about today have Cerakote on them that I've done in house, and then both the handles on these are G10, which is a
kind of a standard.
Yeah, it's a really tough fiberglass. The steel will probably break before the handle does on anything that has G10 on it. It's made under heat and pressure fiberglass and mesh and resin.
Good tactile, right? So like even if it gets wet or anything, it's got a pretty good grip to it.
Both of these, you can see like I've got good texturing on these. I do all this texturing by hand on the grinder, and then I sandblast them to give them just a little bit more texture, which really came out nice on this PPB. We'll talk about in a minute. And then I clean up all the edges with just like a really high grit sandpaper, so that when you hold that, hopefully you don't really feel. A lot of times, like when you first cut that texturing, you kind of end up with some sharp edges because you're just cutting it out. But then I make sure that I get all those edges roughed down. Every time that I'm working on a knife, I'm handling it constantly. I'm making sure that hot spots are getting sanded off, so that whichever way you end up holding it, either in the forward hand or in the reverse grip, that it sits comfortably and you don't feel any uncomfortable spots as you're holding it.
Yeah, that's very comfortable.
So the PPB, the personal protection blade, this is my personal one. I don't have a nice new shiny one with me right now, but I've been carrying this one for several months, so hopefully it's withstanding the test of time. But probably one of the most popular knives that I make, and make them for everybody from like our students who are coming to class to up their personal protection and self-defense life, to some folks in 3-letter agencies and lots of guys across the command in SOCOM. So these things have been kind of a staple to my knife making journey, and I really kind of modeled it off of some other successful EDC type carry blades out there, and try to incorporate a lot of features that'll really make it a good personal protection everyday defense knife. Overall it's 7 inches. 7 inches in total length from tip to the end of the tang. So not a huge knife by any means, but what I really strove for to incorporate in this knife is to make sure that I can get a full hand grip on this thing, either grip. So where it lands right now, I've got good thumb cap on the back end. If I end up with it And the overhand grip, I've got the right amount of steel, both up in the finger well and then towards the back, that it just supports that grip nicely. And then I've got a textured thumb ramp on this side, so if you're working on something and you're trying to push the point in, you can reinforce with the thumb. Or if you're trying to do like a heavy cut, I've got thumb relief on the back end here.
Okay.
This is technically a reverse Tonto style point, so
okay.
we've got a lot of steel behind the point. When you look at the point from this angle, you can see like the only real part where you lose steel by the point is that last 1/4 of an inch or so. So obviously it's not like a skinning knife or anything. It's got a pretty aggressive bevel on it. It's about a 7-degree angle, so that you've got a lot of steel behind the edge, but I still obviously sharpen those up to make sure that they're nice and sharp. But the whole point is to have a really reinforced edge and a reinforced point, so that whatever you kind of throw at it, it'll handle it. And kind of funny story, you think, swoopy people doing crazy stuff in places, but honestly, probably like one of my hardest used customers is a lineman up in Maine, and he's got one of my early PPBs, and he beats on it so hard that it almost makes my skin crawl a little bit. But he sends me pictures of it all the time. And obviously, like, the finish on it is banged up and stuff because he's like hammering it through cables and stuff. But he just loves it to death, and he's always telling me like, "Man, I love this thing, and I can't break it." And so that's just a testament to that steel and how rough it can be used and still hold an edge and not snap on you.
So this is a really interesting and cool design here that I like, and I like the name to begin with, the PPB. Simple, straightforward, but the personal protection blade. I like it. Obviously, unless you're one of those weird guys that wants to carry a Bowie knife, I'm sure I just triggered some people. But unless you're one of those guys that wants to carry a Bowie knife into Walmart and make people pucker their sphincters, you don't want and don't need a huge blade. I mean, you said how long was the blade?
That's a 3 1/4 inch blade.
3 1/4 inch blade. I mean, that'll do some protective damage there. So you don't need a crazy big blade. I do like the full. I mean, I've got a decent sized hand, not like Shaquille O'Neal level or anything, but I can get a really nice solid full grip. When I look at a blade for personal protection or carry, I always like to get a nice deep finger groove, and this is phenomenal up here because you could jab, hit bone, whether you're working on a deer or something like that. I know it's not supposed to be for deer, but
people have done it.
I'm trying to be couth so I don't get demonetized.
Sure.
But if you hit something solid, your finger's not going to slide forward and cut your own damn hand. I hadn't thought about that finger depress or
thumb relief.
Thumb relief right there. That's very solid. This little guy can do some damage in and of itself. It's a pretty little
for the lawyers that are out there, I was glass breaker on the back end.
Glass breaker, yes, but it's a glass breaker.
Also, just another area of opportunity to give you some options in a self-defense situation. Even if you can't use the cutting edge, or if you were trying to kind of bang something free, you've got that steel impact area.
Get tied up or something. You can. I think if I recall correctly, in the Filipino martial arts. At least with like a stick side, it's like a puño. They call it, like a little bit of an extra thing, jab weapon. But
I wanted to give you the opportunity to have something that could break glass, but also a lot of glass breakers just kind of come off the back as a straight point. So you don't necessarily want to put your thumb on that,
right?
If you were the reverse grip. So
that's a good point.
Bringing that steel down.
So you got place
allows you. Yeah, you've got a textured thumb ramp on the back as well, but also some exposed steel that if you need to crack that glass or do something else with it, you've got that option.
Fantastic. And you also make the holsters for these,
Yep,
right?
so this is my personal sheath for this, and I'll show you real quick here. For those of you at home, if you're looking to kind of modify your EDC setup, this looks kind of janky, but really what it is just some foam super glued to the back of this sheath, so that as I carry it on my body, it just holds it out away from my body a little bit. I wish I had like a more eloquent material solution to do that, but everybody's body's a little bit different. Yeah. So, anytime that I kind of retrofit a knife for my own carry, I just sort of build that little pad up to the point where it's comfortable. Okay. This is a Holstex sheath, which is very similar to Kydex. It's just carbon fiber and pattern. One of the key things about the sheath, though, for me is you see a lot of knives that come with sheaths typically just kind of come up and cover. I wanted to make sure that with the sheath design, when I grab it, there's zero adjustment that I have to make from when I grab onto it to when I pull it out. I don't want to have to pull out my knife. You see a lot of like older hunting knives that have deep carry kind of leather sheaths, which is fine because, different application, but you're kind of having to pull it out from the back and then, okay, now I'm up on my knife. What I do with my sheaths is I try to remove as much material as possible so that I can enable either from this grip or from the reverse grip. When I pull that out, I'm not making any adjustment to my hand whatsoever.
Right.
And I still have plenty of retention. That knife.
Yeah, it's good positive click.
It's not going to come out as I go through my everyday carry type stuff.
So similar to like a firearm, Big Six, fundamentals of shooting, grip is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you don't have a good grip on the knife, you could possibly hurt yourself, drop it, whatever. So
yeah,
that's. I don't think I've ever seen kind of a holster quite like that. It's almost like that finger grooves right in there. It's nice.
Yeah, I just carved that out with a Dremel basically, and then sand it all up so that obviously it's nice and smooth and isn't going to scratch up the finish of the blade. This one also, I made this about 4 or 5 months ago, and I carry it every day. So that's really just a testament to Cerakote. So this has just got a lighter color OD green Cerakote on it.
But you don't actually just carry. I mean, if I'm remembering you correctly, you practice draw strokes.
Yeah, just
you're
like
taking it out, you're using it.
Sure, just like
even if it's just open Amazon boxes, you're pulling it out all the time.
Reps are reps, right, Dan?
Exactly.
Whether I'm carrying it. So, like I said, that the pad on that thing really helps support keeping it away from my body. Even when I'm sitting down, I can sit comfortably, and obviously every knife is going to have a handle, so you don't want that like digging into your ribs. So that pad really helps with that. But when I stand up, obviously you don't see the handle sticking out. But yeah, all the time I'm just making sure that I've got a good setup for my draw stroke, and then obviously normally I'd be carrying my pistol appendix style over here. So kind of like we have taught in the courses that we've been to, and working with Hank as well, that offside weak hand
get
draw
off me
for the knife. Yeah, the get off me knife. So yeah, I mean, I practice, every time that I put it on, I'll usually pull it out a few times just to make sure that it's kind of sitting in the right spot. And you guys can see, like, it's really just got the right amount of retention. I'm not in a tug of war contest when I'm pulling it out. If I wanted to pull it out from the overhand, I can do that with the strong hand side. Or even if I just need to use it to cut something, obviously I can just do that and then put it back. And I got good positive retention there. I'm mobile. I can sit down, and I can do it without having to go, oh gosh. It sits where it needs to sit. I'll pull it back out here.
Fantastic. All right. Now, I know we said you got a pretty long wait list and everything, but if somebody sees this video and they're like, those are badass, I really want to get one, you're mostly on Instagram, but do you have a website now as well?
I don't have a website.
How do they get to you?
Instagram and Facebook are the best ways. I'm Legacy Blades on Facebook.
Any underscores or anything? I'll put the actual name on the screen, but
yeah, it's just for the actual website. It's just the / Legacy Blades NC.
Okay.
And then on Instagram, I'm at Legacy Blades NC, all one word.
At Legacy Blades NC.
NC for North Carolina. Obviously, I'm stationed at Bragg. So
we'll put links in the description and possibly on the screen as well.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, man, appreciate you having me down. Hey,
anything else before we close out? Anything?
No, I think I don't want to bore people too much with all the knife jargon stuff. Hopefully you guys can see, like, I love making knives. So if you want me to work with you and to create something special for whatever for yourself or for a friend or for I've made a lot of knives for dads to hand down to sons for hunting trips and stuff. Like, love doing it. So yeah, if you want to reach out to me and talk about building a knife, then that'd be awesome.
So if you're looking for a personal protection knife and your laws allow for it, or if you're a hunter, or if you just want a really high quality, basically, artistic piece, be sure to go over to Jared's Instagram, Legacy Blades NC, check it out and get in contact with him through there to be able to get your blade. But I'm super stoked that you were able to get up here and we were able to do this. And I would say it looks like you're going places, but it sounds like you already are places with that. So
you never arrived, though, right?
Never arrived. What is it? What you always say? Be proud of what you've done, but not content with where you're at, or something to that effect. Yeah. So, both of us always trying to grow. Always trying to grow. Jared, thank you so much, my friend. It was such a pleasure. Everyone else, stay safe, stay smart, and stay tactical, my friends.